Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about how to deal with a low performing employee interview question. Sometimes you're asked to describe a situation where you had a low performing employee or low performing member in your team and you're asked to explain how you dealt with it. And in some other cases the question is more general and you're asked to describe how you would have dealt with a low performing employee. I think in either case your approach should be the same, and in this video I'm going to share with you how I think you should deal with a low performing employee, and I'll also provide an example of my personal experience and how I dealt with it. I also want to say that it's an important interview question that product managers should feel comfortable about speaking and answering, because as a product manager, you work with everybody, and once in a while you do come across somebody who's not meeting your expectations, and you have to be able to find a way to address that problem in a way that delivers a positive outcome for your product and the team that you're working with. In this question, the interviewers are really looking to see if you're able to bring the best out of people, you can find ways to work with everybody, and you can resolve performance issues that might appear as a result of you working with so many different people at your workplace without any conflicts or like kind of negative outcomes. So it's very important for you to be aware of that when you're thinking about this type of interview question. I'm going to first explain how I deal with low performing employees, like I said, and also provide an example using the STAR method. I think you might have already been familiar with it, but the STAR method basically describes the situation you're in, the tasks that you were assigned, the actions that you took to deal with the low performing employee, and the final outcome. And I really like this structure because it ensures that you don't miss any steps while you're providing an answer. Now, the first thing that I do in these situations is to understand this situation really well. I'm trying to make sure that I'm pretty clear on what is defined as low performance. Is it about something specific they did, or is it, is it just this project or the whole project? Is it low performance observed across the team, or is it just us one person? And what are they really performing low on? Is it like one particular part? And making sure that I have a pretty clear idea of the problem statement that I'm dealing with. And many times, this is kind of obvious and is a reason for you to pay attention to the situation, because you need to do a bit of an investigation. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of an investigation on your side to know the scope and the size of the problem, and use that information to know how to deal with it. The second part is identifying the cause of the issue. Once you know the problem, you need to know if this is caused by an external factor or an internal factor. Is it because they don't have the bandwidth? Are there any other tech debt that's preventing them from doing their work, or their own tech debt? Are they dealing with conflicting priorities? Are they too busy? Is it a new concept that they haven't got proper training for? Have they been given proper instructions and guidance from you as a product manager? And do they know what you want and what your criteria of success are? So the cause could be a variety of things. And I think what matters is for you to make sure that you have a pretty clear idea of the reason. You can do your own investigation here again by talking to people or directly speaking to the individual here and ask what's going on and see if you can kind of find any sort of barriers that are preventing them from doing their work. Third, if you now know the cause, you can actually think about how to deal with it. If it's caused by an external factor, help them address it by suggesting some solutions or finding the right person that can help them, or taking a proactive role basically in helping them resolve it. But if it's an internal issue, like there's no lack of motivation, there's a lack of motivation, then you have to basically find ways to inspire them and get them excited. And here, when I'm dealing with the lack of motivation issue, I address it by explaining the end vision and the significance of it and the impact that it has on making the life of users better, and how their work fits into into this bigger vision, and it enables it. I try to help them see the bigger impact that they're having with their work, and I've seen that it usually empowers them and helps them see their work as something that's bigger than themselves, and they get excited about that. The next thing that you should do is to have to make sure that you address the cause of low performance. After you address the cause of low performance, is to come up with some sort of an action item for yourself so that you can actually measure their change in performance after your effort in addressing them. So sometimes it means having a reminder for yourself to revisit their work in a few weeks. Sometimes it means spending more time with them until they catch up to the level that you expect them to be, and you kind of monitoring them closely to make sure that things are making progress. And next, if you see improvements, make sure that you acknowledge it to get them more excited. And if you don't see any progress, that's when you have to go back and see if there are any other causes for this kind of lack of performance and try to address them. And if it's still not working, then you have to think about working with their superior managers, find a solution for that. And if it's something that's reporting to you, perhaps, they're not in the right position or project, and you will have to basically take bigger actions, such as changing their role or changing their project or changing their team, or like even, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but like changing the company and asking them to leave. I think what's really important to remember here is that product managers have to maintain good relationships with people, and you need to make sure that you deal with low performing employees in a way that builds relationships and doesn't cause any other issues. It's very important for you to do it that way. And the example that I like to provide from my past experience is something that kind of, I think, shows how you can do it in a positive way. So when I was a product manager, I was starting out as a product manager a few years ago. I used to work with a marketing manager that sometimes needed the product team to support her in launching new marketing campaigns. And the challenge was that her requests sometimes came in very late and they were too last minute while we were in the middle of the sprint. And this caused a lot of issues for us. And even though she usually had an idea of what she needed, a few weeks earlier, she would leave it to the very last minute to submit her information and would come in and say, I need this by Friday and today is Tuesday. And this was really affecting our work because our sprints were messy as a result. Engineering was frustrated because they were in the middle of work, and they were asked to kind of switch focus to something else, and this kind of slowed everybody. So what I started doing was I did a bit of an investigation to see why this issue existed. It turned out that she was usually a last minute person and wasn't gathering information far ahead of time when it was possible to put them together. And at the same time, she wasn't aware of how much work it takes to launch a new web page or make a change to a web page to meet her marketing campaign's goals. So what I did was I put together a presentation that highlighted the process that I dealt with when we were trying to develop a new basically code or a new page, or we were like looking at into making like some sort of a change. And we show them that, hey, I had to evaluate the effort with the engineering team, plan for it, start the development, actually do the development, do the QA, and then finally publish it to production. And our process wasn't robust enough to really make a release in production in the middle of the day, and we only could do it once a week at a particular time of the day. So I showed her an easy understand diagram that said, here's our process. I explained to her that here's what we're doing to improve our process so we can kind of be able to support things in more real time. Like we had this content management tool that was being implemented, so things could kind of be developed easier without having to code everything. But until then, we needed X number of days to be able to successfully launch a new page. And throughout the conversation, she mentioned that she did have most of the requirements except for content, usually till the very last minute. And she was able to share that with me ahead of time. So we came up with a process to submit her request ahead of time, while explaining that the copy is going to be finalized later. And we could provide an estimate on the work ahead of time, add some buffer for the final changes, and basically have everything kind of ready for the final copy. And this resolved a lot of our issues. And the other thing that I did was I started having bi-weekly meetings with her so she could kind of give me a heads up about things that were coming. Now, our team started operating again in 2-week sprints after this, and we could plan for her request ahead of time, get her work done efficiently. And she was also happier because she didn't have to have the stress of not being able to deliver the work. So the outcome was really positive for everybody. And we were happy to be able to work in this way. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and the example Please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to visit our interview questions section of the website. People have tried to also answer this question. Let's continue.